Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Simon Says. And again, another couple of fantastic guests we have to entertain us and inform us today. Probably a lady who's just synonymous with the entertainment world in Melbourne and in Australia. Magnificent singer, has been on stage, has been on TV, has been in movies, of course, has been in a band, in a muso. The great and wonderous Wendy Stapleton. How are you, Wendy? Welcome.
Hey, Simon. How are you?
I'm great. All the better for seeing you. Fantastic. And of course, a man who, and we have a music theme this week, but a man who started as a footballer first, 228 games and 428 goals with the Melbourne Football Club. Debuted in 1997. He's now in the Tasmanian Hall of Fame, and but also as a guitarist, singer, has been on TV too. And was a model for a while. There's big and bigging. Again, the great and wondrous Russell Robertson. How are you?
Hello, Simon. Hi, Wendy. How are we?
Great. How are you?
Oh, not bad. I'm dressed up for the occasion, Simon. I've got my beanie on and work clothes. You know, I haven't done a lot of manual labour since getting drafted, but we've all had to. What's the buzzword at the moment is we've all had to pivot.
Yes.
And I've pivoted back to doing some building with a mate of mine.
Well, just on that, you've got now, is that I don't want to give anybody a free ad, Norwood, is it? You got anything to do with that? That's
Norwood Constructions, Sir Jimmy, mate of mine.
Oh, good.
James Quinert, and he's just got a lot of. Well, it just seems that everybody's probably got a lot of cash now to.
Oh, really?
Well, people of a certain. I don't know. People
they got nothing else to do. They're renovating the house.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if they can't. Maybe they had money to go on a holiday with it.
That's right.
That anymore. So
now, what are you doing in the car? Are you just keeping away from the work noise?
Keeping away from all the noise. It's a bit windy up here. I'm up in the Yarra Junction, at Yarra Junction at the moment on a farm, and I can see some cattle in front of me. Got a beautiful setting here, and I've been up here for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's been quite nice actually to get out of the house away from the kids and homeschooling.
a lot of people have I've said a lot of people have a newfound respect for teachers because they're having trouble dealing with 3 kids, and teachers normally deal with 20 to 30 in the one room. So there's a newfound respect. Now, Wendy, where are you? You look like you're in a wonderful office at home. You've got a lot of
just at home in good old Moonee Ponds.
You're a local Essendon girl. Now, as a muso, how has this affected you? Because your livelihood has been about being in front of people.
Well, there's no livelihood. Basically, it sort of completely stopped around about March. That was it. Look, I've been very fortunate in as much as I've been doing a lot of shows, Zoom shows. I was saying that last night on YouTube I did John Foreman's Big Night In, which is run from the Melbourne Arts Centre, and that was fantastic because I sang a song with the 60-piece Melbourne Pops Orchestra.
Wow.
And somehow they managed to coordinate 60 musos and me and the conductor, and I'll send it to you. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it when I looked at it last night. I thought,
I'm gonna make sure I have a look at that, Wendy. That's fantastic. That sounds good. Now, just on that, so
I've been doing a few things like that. I've been running my rock choir.
Of course, great.
Yeah, with the girls. Of course, it's not serious. We just basically like to see each other, So doing
that's an important part of it.
Yeah. Really, just doing the best you can. But as you know, and Russell would know too, because we both used to work at the Arco Bar. There are no gigs. I mean, these people have been trying to do the best they can, doing little Zoom things from the Arco Bar. Did you do that, Russ?
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't do the Zoom thing, but, Arco are just, and I know that this echoes the sentiment of all cafe and restaurant owners everywhere, that they're just being, unless they've been able to just do well with their takeaway meals and coffees, but it would just be a massive down time for all of those guys. But, they've struggled through this, and they just cannot wait to get back open to serve the people, and places like Arco Bar where Wendy and I played, and the music joints, they just live for that.
Yes.
They live. I've got people messaging me, Wendy, you'd be the same. When are you back at Arco Bar? I cannot wait to go out, just have a boogie and get away from the house, but just, just release. And it's just such a massively important part of our lives. And I'm not sure through this that governments and leaders understand how important that side of things are, because I feel like musos that I know have been sort of left, wanting a little left in the lurch, and then you'll be right. We'll just wait 6 to 12 months and then you can get going again.
Oh, look, it's always fascinated me where someone's in a band and a function place will go, look, come and, or someone will do a function and say to an upcoming band and go, look, you come and play for free and we'll give you publicity. You'll get publicity. I always keep saying, well, they never say that to the caterer. They never say that to the person. Give us the food for free and we'll promote it, or give us your venue for free. But they always have this concept that music should be, somehow you don't need money to make a living.
Simon, that has been the story for not just now. That's been the story forever. We've been asked to do functions at the Palladium at Crown. Now, how much do you think it would cost to even hire that room? And yet they've asked the singers and the musos to do it for nothing.
For publicity. I reckon it's amazing. Anyway, well, now let's make this a bit more positive. Let's not get too down.
No, we're not going to be that.
Wendy, I want to talk about, because if I'll try and do my research, find out. Were you actually on stage at 9 years old? Did you start at that age?
Yes.
So how did you get into that?
Well, there were 2 dancing schools in Melbourne in the city, and they were actually sort of considered the places to go if you wanted to be in showbiz. Mind you, at 9, the chances are you've got a very sort of determined mother.
Yeah.
And mum, she was gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but she desperately wanted to be in showbiz. And, of course, the war broke out and that blew her career out of the water. So she was determined that someone in the family was going to be in showbiz. So, consequently, she took me to one of the dance schools. One was called May Dance. The other one was called Olive Wallace. And if you went there, sure enough, or provided you could cut it, you were cast in theatre shows. Back then they only took children from those two schools. So I was very fortunate, and my first show was a Noel Coward play, and he came out from England for the opening, and so we all met the famous Noel Coward. And so I was 9,
And it's just gone on and on from there. That's fantastic. Now, Russell, you're a Tasmanian boy. So did you grow up in actually grown a little place on the north coast called Penguin?
I did.
And played and played for Burnie. Is that right?
I played for Burnie. Started off, a little town, Penguin, and it's actually quite strange that I'm in Yarra Junction right now, because my mum grew up just not too far down the valley here, and she went to a debutante ball here in Yarra Junction, and I'm working not too far away from it. But she was a bit unlucky with her parents. They passed away early when she was young, and then her brother took her down to Tassie to live with him, and she met my dad, and then obviously we grew up in a little 2,000 strong town on the coast, northwest coast of Tasmania. Beautiful little spot. I'd love to.
Yeah, I've been to Penguin. I've been to Burnie. Lovely part of the world. The coast on there, it's one of the underrated things, because it probably hasn't got the population like some of the coasts along Victoria. It's just beautiful.
Oh place. Yeah. And I tell you, they do appreciate the music when you bring it to their states. So, the Victorians coming down and playing for them, they love it because it's something a little bit different. So, but yeah, look, I played for Burnie, though, because I was advised by my mentor, Chris Fagan, who is now the coach of the Brisbane Lions and doing very, very well at that.
Very well.
He told me, look, you're going to have to go and play for Burnie if you want to make the state side, because he was our state coach. Peter German was coaching the Burnie Dockers at the time. Ex-North Melbourne. You would have saddled up against him a few times, Simon.
Yeah, he's actually talking to me about one time I stood in his hand, and I can't remember it. I've apologised to him. I said, if I did that, I'm sorry. It was a different time, he said.
Yeah, well, it would have been easy to do. You only came up to your hips because you're so big. And I got the good coaching from him, and look, it was a wonderful little time of my life, I suppose, from the age of 16 through to 18, getting drafted and heading over to the Big Smoke here in Victoria.
It's fantastic. And Wendy, starting off at 9 on stage, then you just like you're on the Tarek show, if I remember, one of my favourite shows, and you've always been an entertainer.
Well, yes. It just followed on. You know, the television was another part. Television was relatively newish, and they had the kids shows had kids on the show as well, not just adults. They had the kids, the dancers and the singers, and so that was King Corky. Russell, you weren't born, so just pretend, right? Just look interested. You know who was fabulous, even back then? Ernie Carroll, who was, of course, Aussie Ostrich on Hey Hey It's Saturday. But back then, when we were little kids, he played a character called Professor Ratbaggy.
I do remember that too.
So yeah, it was wonderful growing up doing all that stuff.
That's fantastic. And now you also you were in lots of bands. I know you're a local Essendon girl, which is great, and I still hope you follow Essendon. But like you had the Wendy Stapleton band, and then the big one, of course, was Wendy and the Rockets. How did that come about?
Well, in actual fact, I'd been playing in bands, and I must correct you, I'm actually a Melbourne girl.
All right.
By Simon,
that's why we got Russell on, mate. That's right.
By default, but the family's a bit of a mishmash. One brother's Essendon, Bill, my brother's Carlton, as you know.
Yes.
And the reason I was with Melbourne, I'm just digressing here, but was because Peter Sullivan, my musician friend, we did all the functions for the Melbourne Football Club. And so eventually I just spent so much time with, it was beautiful, you know, Jimmy Steins and Gary Lyon and all those guys. We spent so much of our time at their social functions that I ended up being in the Tridents and all that sort of stuff. So it is a bit of a sort of mishmash life that I live with the football fraternity, but Wendy and the Rockets, yes, sorry, I'll get back onto it.
No, that's right, that's good. I like hearing the background, that's great.
Yeah, well, that's a real mish, you know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Wendy and the Rockets, I'd been in bands, you know, since very young, 15, 16. Of course, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be 18.
Especially in pubs, of course.
Yeah, especially in pubs. But eventually, David Briggs from Little River Band, who was a friend of mine, I did some demos with him, and he got me a deal with Michael Gudinski with Mushroom Records. And I was signed as a solo artist, but it's really hard to do gigs.
Yeah.
Solo artist. So I formed the Rockets, and gee, what a lot of fun we had.
That's fantastic. Now, Russell, you're known firstly as a footballer, and of course, you know, is it true you actually got sort of noticed through Almost Footy Legends on TV? Somebody saw one of those great big high marks and said, we better go and have a look at this bloke?
Yeah. And look, it's kind of a good story for a parent, really. The fact that I got drafted from the footy show and the Almost Footy Legends segment, it's great that was available to me because it did get me noticed. But really, it sort of goes back further than that, and that was my father, who is a school teacher, secondary school teacher, working in the woodwork department for metalwork, you know, tech design, all that sort of stuff. He would come home. I had 3 sisters, so he was pretty keen to have a kick of the footy with me, get away from all the female talk inside, which is great. But we would go out the front every single. I mean, first thing he said when we got home was when he got home from school. And he get home pretty early, being a teacher. You know, come on, boy, let's go and have a kick. So we'd go out the front, and I think he noticed early days that I had a decent set of hands. But I wasn't tall enough, and I'm still not, to get up high enough to mark the ball with my schoolmates that would be there with me, or mates and cousins and whatnot. So Dad's suggestion was, why don't you step off them? And you'll love this, Simon, because you did a bit of this, was to step off and just run up and use their hips for a little bit of leverage to get above the hands.
Yes.
That works for a little while with your mates. They stop coming around pretty.
Yeah, they don't, because they just fucking hurt. Oh, he's got me again.
Yeah. So Dad, being an engineer type, he got a 4x2 and a bit of rubber tube from the inner tube from my bike, cut that in half, and then got one of Mum's stockings and put a footy inside the leg of the stocking, and then he tied and rigged it all up to the 4x2 off the shed. And you think about Don Bradman and his cricket stump off the corrugated iron.
That's right, yeah.
Water tank. For the kiddies out there listening, they don't know that. You should Google that. That was his. He just did that every day, over and over, trying to get his eye in, and the ball would go anywhere, and he did it, and becomes the best cricketer of all time. Well, that was my Don Bradman type training. With that ball was there, I was just hour upon hour just out there grabbing the ball, bring it to the ground, let it go, and it would just rebound back to a position above my head, and I just got better and better at it. Mates and I would stand underneath it, would take hangers on each other, bring the ball to the ground, Kappa and Jezza and all that stuff. And then, Dad got a ruck bag, got one of those made up. He'd throw the ball up in the air and he'd stand underneath it. He worked on this with me over and over and over to get me just really comfortable being in the air and taking the ball high. I'd jump on the trampoline, he'd kick the ball, and I'd have to jump off the trampoline and catch it and land on the grass and roll. And so I after about 5 or 6 years of doing this, I ended up making the state team under Chris Fagan, and I've taken a couple of marks that year that were pretty good. They were high. They were really high, and it ended up winning the Almost Foot Legends, and the other mark came third. So Melbourne, in their wisdom, they sent down a scout, must have said the right things, and then I go on to get drafted. And it's all because my old man took the time to, understand and facilitate. He was a great facilitator. And that's all you need really in life, is somebody is going to give you some information that's going to help. Now, I say to kids all the time, you may be unlucky and you don't have that great facilitator like I had my dad, who would take the time and notice. But you've got to go and find one. You've got to find your own mentors. Get off your ass. Don't wallow in pity. Find someone that can teach you something. Because if anyone came up to me, and you guys would be the same, if they asked you a question, Wendy, if someone comes and said, "Can you teach me to sing?" Oh my God, yes, you'd teach them in a second, wouldn't you? You just want to impart the knowledge. Yeah. So I was lucky.
My mum was a good facilitator for me because she would just wash the mud off me before I went inside and had a shower. There was so it was never, "Oh, you're dirty, don't come inside." So just get the mud off first, go and have a shower. Like those little things, just some encouragement. Wendy, for you, it's really interesting to hear that from Russell. What about you as far as mentors or people helping with your career and your direction?
Well, as I said, it started with Mum. Her so passionately wanting to be in showbiz. So that rubbed off. My poor brothers actually had to do tapping until I was 2 years old. Bill, as you know, Bill's 7 years older, and Robbie's 6 years older, and the poor guys, they're going to kill me for telling you this.
Please tell us.
They had to tap until I was old enough to go and do it. And then they could play footy up at Essendon.
Yeah, right.
Oh boy! But Mum, and then of course, going back to being at the dancing school so young, there were people there that were, we called them the big girls. Well, she was 8 years old and 9 years older. Was Paddy McGrath, Bert Newton's Paddy.
Oh yeah, right.
Denise Drysdale, and so a lot of those girls at the dancing school, being a lot older, were already forging their way in the theatre and in television, and they would help us young ones along. So you were helped along the way, the whole journey. So it wasn't necessarily just a dancing school. We had singing lessons, so everything was sort of, people were there to help you.
That's great. Now, Russell, I want to talk about your music too, but firstly, Almost Footy Legends gets you there. You're regularly in Mark of the Week, but I don't think you ever actually won Mark of the Year. Is that correct?
No, I never won Mark of the Year.
Well, I'm sure I've seen about half a dozen of yours that you put it right up the top, but never got Mark of the Year.
No, and no one really sort of remembers year by year who won Mark of the Year, but I am renowned for being a high flyer, and I think Sheed said to me one day, if there was a, I love Sheed. He just comes up with pearls. I saw him.
That's right.
I saw him and Kevin Bartlett up on stage at the Moonee Valley last year. My God, it was a laugh a second with those two.
Oh yeah, those two together. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But he said to me, if there was an award for the most consistent, you would get it. This was before Jeremy Howe. I think I'm second to him in terms of the most marks of the week in the modern era. So
yeah, fantastic.
For me, it wasn't about taking a mark, Simon. It was more about being able to kick a goal.
Yes,
I love the goal. I just wanted to get it.
And you were 428. You're pretty good at it.
Well, I knew where the goals were, and I didn't like going too far down the other end of the ground. I got a little bit lost. I lost contact with the goalpost. I didn't like that, but I was a good goal kicker. I averaged me just under 2, and being a small little half forward flanker who's not necessarily, they were kicking Anita. So they were kicking Anita all the time. They weren't kicking at me.
And you just happen to be there. You just have to fly in from the side. Fantastic. Now, Wendy, a whole lot of stuff you've done, and of course, the musical theatre background. But you had great success with the Dusty Springfield story. And I actually remember seeing you do that. I remember you did a New Year's Eve concert, and you did your own stuff and a bit of stuff. But then you did a section of the Dusty Springfield story. Fantastic! It was great. Now, how did you get into that?
Well, I was actually in a rock musical called Bad Boy Johnny. So it was all of the guys from the Rocky Horror Show, Daniel Abineri, Steve Bastoni, and they all came down from Sydney. And Russell Crowe was in it as well. He was young boy in that show. And that was on at the Comedy Theatre. It didn't go, in Australia, it didn't go further than the comedy, but it did overseas. And one of the directors thought that from on the stage I looked a lot like Dusty. I'd never thought about it, but I did. And I could sound, if I concentrated, I could sound like Dusty. So they offered me the role of this new show that they were doing, and I took it with both hands and said, thank you very much. And it was fabulous. I mean, it was years and years and years of Dusty.
Oh, look, it was fantastic. And of course, you had to have the big hair. So I don't think it was your hair. If I can remember, it was very, very big. It was huge.
You know what? I've got a cupboard up here. It's too scary. It's too scary to show anybody. Seriously. It's full of these wigs. And sometimes you'd be going to a gig and I'd have them all in the back of the car, just these heads on pieces of plastic, And you'd see drivers going past going, ah! There were heads like this. Yeah, big hair.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Russell, when did you first pick up a guitar?
It would have been, I remember watching Hey Hey at Saturday as a young fella, and because that's what we all did back then. We watched Hey Hey. And I remember seeing Nathan Camilleri come on one evening, and he's like 12 or 11.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, the early days, that's right.
Amazing blues and rock with the band and with Red and the guys, and I thought to myself, God, that's cool. That is so cool. But my old man had already started me on the piano before this.
About what age was that when you're on the piano?
I reckon I was probably about 8.
Yeah, right.
8, 9, 10-year-old by the time I decided to give that away. That I didn't. It wasn't so much that I didn't like playing piano. I liked playing piano at home with Dad, but didn't like my teacher that much. She's just a bit on the old side. That's all.
Oh, you realised you wouldn't get the chicks playing the piano. That's what happened.
That's 100%.
And you can carry a guitar in the back of the car, but it's very hard to have a piano in the back of the car.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, I didn't really do much with music for a long time, and then I came over to Melbourne, and in the downtime, I just went and bought myself a guitar, and slowly just taught myself how to play that, and it goes on from there. I did a couple of things on the Footy Show, and then Channel 10 It Takes Two. I did that with Kate.
Well, hang on, not just Kate. Like Takes Two, that was with Kate Sobrano. That's let's drop the name. Let's drop the name properly. Just Kate. Let's drop a proper name, Kate Sobrano.
With first name basis, But look, I've been so lucky since then. Well, I hooked in with Phil Sobrano, her brother, and he's just phenomenal. Like Kate's a freak of nature. We know that, but Phil's creativity and ability to play guitar and just beyond music too, his creativity is really, really amazing. And Wendy, you'd know because you would have hung around him a lot over the years.
Yeah.
He's just a laugh a minute, isn't he? He's just
he's a live wire, isn't he?
yeah, oh yeah, and I love him, and we played gigs all over Victoria and even Australia, and I've been able to hook in with lots of great musicians ever since. So for me, it's been a real grind over the last 10 years since that show. And all I ever wanted to do was really play somewhere and have people enjoy some music. It wasn't about, writing the next great single or anything like that. It's just so much fun. Everyone has fun when they're out watching and listening to live music. Melbourne's the best at it, and it just sucks that we can't do it at the moment.
Yeah. And just on that, so you had It Takes Two, and Wendy, you had, I think at one stage, two up with Glenn Shorrock. That's another big name we'll just drop another big name there.
Everywhere.
How was that one? How did that come about?
Actually, in between Dusties, we'd done Australia, toured around Australia, and we were taking a year of the Dusty shows. We were going to England, and that didn't happen for some reason. So Glenn Shorrock asked me if I'd do a theatre production with him. The idea being duos from all around the world, every famous duo you could think of. And I don't know whether you probably do, Simon, but Glenn Shorrock's an amazing comedian. He's really funny. And
it was just busy making money out of music. That's right.
Yeah. But it was a really funny show. So we did that for 12 months.
Fantastic.
That was great fun. But you haven't told us about your music.
Oh, well, it's not about me, but let's make it about me.
Oh, come on.
Well, no, just like Wendy's, and it's really interesting that we got you to speak, Wendy, because your partner Paul Norton, you and my wife Mary was in your choir. That's how, and she can sing, and she doesn't like me talking about it, but she can sing, and she actually picks harmony. Like I can learn harmony, and I'm a sort of singer, but I play guitar more than I'm a singer. I just never had proper lessons, etc. And a bit of fun, but it's good when you sing in a group. But so Mary,
Mary.
Got friends and love being in the choir with you, and that was just great fun. And we know some of the girls can't sing and they try really hard. Others are there just for fun, and it's the group together is fantastic. And you talked Mary into being in the choir, which is great. And then you turned around to me and said, well, if Mary's in the choir, you've got to do Weekend Warriors with Paul Norton, And I had a couple of friends, and I can remember this, and this was ages ago, and I said, oh yeah, but there's me and two mates, and we've got to be together. So we turn up at the pub, Hardyman's pub, upstairs. You do sort of scratching around and have a go. And then we started and we put the band together. It was half an hour. Paul actually is a really good producer on that. I know he produced a whole lot of music for different people. And then we actually got us. He produced us, and I think you do about half an hour, 7 songs.
Yeah.
And and I reckon that day we were the most produced. We were the most. Were we the best? I'm not sure, but we were the tightest band because we'd actually worked together. And then we finished that, and we called ourselves, I think we all put coloured T-shirts on and called ourselves the Wrinkles because it was late, So rather than the Wiggles, we called ourselves the Wrinkles and said we do age-appropriate music. We finished that, it was great. And then one of the blokes turned around and said, do you want to do more of this? And we sort of went, yeah. And 10 years later, we were going to have our 10-year reunion this year. We were going to have a big gig for our 10-year anniversary. And, of course, we're going to make that next year. So I understand all that about, and, we do covers. But it was really enjoyable. I think Wendy and Paul were happy that one of their bands actually took it up and kept going. Because, Weekend Warriors, some people just want to sing that song in front of a crowd. And, as you said, Russell, like just that enjoyment in a crowd. Some people want to say, I just need to sing this song in public to make myself feel good, which is fantastic. So, and we just sort of went, well, we're going to have more fun with it. And so we're still going, hopefully, after the end of this.
I loved the way I went to see you guys at the Ascot Vale when Better Late Than Never first started, and the two girls, your wife, Mary, and Kenny. Gail. And they were, Russell, they were doing BVs on the side of the stage, like just sort of over to the side a bit. And during the break, I said, just move in a little bit more toward toward the centre.
Put them in the middle.
Every time they sort of do a new song, just move closer to the centre. And by doing
And now up on stage, very good, Wendy. Up on stage, they're placed right in the middle. And to be fair, I'd rather be looking at two good-looking ladies than these ugly old faces we've got. So that's fine. That's good. The trouble is, every now and then, especially at a pub, every now and then there's someone who's getting a little bit too close. You know, people love the person on stage. I'm sure Russell, being a model, at times people look at you on stage and they fall in love with the singer. Wendy, they've fallen in love with Wendy for years and years. They're not going to fall in love with me, but they like the girls.
There is a bit of that goes on. There's the stares that happen, and there's trying to make a connection. But it's all in that's the emotion of music, and that's the even if it is just a cover song that you're playing that's been heard a million times before. What I love about playing with Phil and the people that I've selected, I suppose, since then, the ones that I enjoy playing with are the ones that make this gig a party, because they understand that not everyone gets out that often. We're stuck at home, or we've got lots of work, but you know what? We're going to get out tonight, and we make this gig the best gig for them tonight. And Phil's really great at that, and I really, really do appreciate playing with him. And yeah, I watch you, Simon, when I've done a couple of things, and you're on off. You want to come up and play. It's addictive.
I make sure, as you know, mate, you've done a couple of solo gigs at the AFL, etc. I make sure I come and solo, but I make sure, and there's everybody's listening, but I'm trying to listen to you too and make sure. I've said before, I'd love to go and do a song. I love to do a song with anybody, of course, but
I love that thing. Like, Wendy and Paul will be playing somewhere, and if you know someone, Wendy, you're like, come and have a sing with us, or come up. This is a party. This is fun. And obviously, you don't want some drunk idiot coming up with you or anything like that. But music's collaborative, and it's fun, and it's supposed to be fun. And what you'll notice is, and the best gigs that I've done is where people will have a friend that, she's a great singer. She was on The Voice, or she was, and can you get her up to have a sing? And then we do, and the crowd love it. They're like, that's great. You had a crack. It's brilliant,
That's great. Now, just on that, talking about that, because you mentioned Wendy, you and Paul, and every now and then it's Michael Cristiano, I think, and sometimes it's Jerry Hale. You do a lot of that trio stuff. So
yeah.
You've got two guitars, or one guitar and a fiddle, or other instrument, and we've seen lots of that. It's just fantastic. You must love doing that, because a trio is an easy thing to carry around, rather than have a full band or a 60-piece orchestra, which you'd love to play in front of. But you can get up and you can do really good stuff in a confined space. Yeah,
well, it's another angle. Because it's actually a lie. I mean, it's acoustic. It's all I do is play tambourine very well.
But you do a very good job.
But with Jerry and with Michael, the boys are playing, whereas I've done my fair share of trios, like years ago with Bobby Valentine, and Keith McKay, and we used tracks, and that's fun as well, because a lot of the time people do want to really party, and you need that track to sort of push it along, being a duo or a three-piece.
Yeah.
So there's lovely different sort of little ways of doing your trios or your duos. Some with backtracks, some acoustically. I mean, it limits a lot of the stuff that you can do, but
you do it well. I mean, I know I've been to a few of your say Sunday afternoon pub gigs. And I looked at your website, and there's still some listed there, whether they'll happen or not. You don't know. There's addresses there, but you don't know. But
Bowls.
Yeah, no, we've been there, done that, and down in South Melbourne. What's the pub down in South Melbourne?
The Rising Sun.
The Rising Sun. I think you've done that too. That's great. It's great. Now, Russell, what music are you listening to? I mean, and I listen to a whole range, and I'm very eclectic listener, but. And as you say, there's party music, there's quiet music, there's music in the background. But what's the music you're sort of listening to now?
I'm a bit this. Look, my music taste I'm a boy of the 90s. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of great music coming from the 90s, unless it was your grunge, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, those sorts of bands. So I guess because I came up in that era, I'm sort of stuck to it. Really, I appreciate the 80s and the 70s the most, and I think we all do because we understand that that's where there's the best stuff, the rock and roll, and obviously the 60s as well. That's where it was at, and it's kind of hard. It's all written, it's all done. All the melodies have been found, and it's so that I'm I grew up listening to Daddy Cool. Daddy Cool. Eagle Rock was my favourite song for a long time, and all those songs on that album, and because they were just Dad's records there at home. So I had a good grounding in the old music with his old records. But what I listen to is, as long as it's a band, I'm happy. I don't like something that's
techno or
made on a computer. I don't like any of that stuff. The young kids stuff I don't really like, but I do appreciate that I can hear the drums, I can hear the guitar, and I can hear the band there. So the Killers and John Mayer and those sorts of guys. I really like that kind of music. But my favourite band is my favourite Australian band is Boy and Bear.
Yes, yeah. Good. Actually, and as an old bloke, I actually even know who they are. There you go. I actually listen to them. That's not bad for an old fella.
Actually, that's not bad, mate. With all those greats. What I actually really enjoyed watching. I mean, what a trio! Wendy and Paul and Michael. My God,
Michael's guitar. Michael's got a guitar. I think it's the one he's got this Gibson. And it's actually tailor-made Gibson. It's somewhere like it's a special made Gibson. I've said to him, it's like, if you ever die, I'm going to pitch your guitar.
Yeah. He's just an absolute freak. And you guys, Wendy, are doing this. Well, I don't, it's folky, it's earthy, it's really great, and it's good to have a dance too as well. And there's covers in there, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I think that was at Arco Bar last time I heard you guys. But Michael does this thing. I was at an event for, I think it was in Geelong, and it was for all the graduates of the university down there.
Yeah.
Michael runs that.
He does.
And he gets up there and he just plays on that nylon string, that hollow bodied thing, that thing that's just the outline. That's not. I don't know what.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, one of those ones. Yeah.
Oh, and he played Somewhere Over the Rainbow and all these other, just no singing, just playing and fiddling away. And I reckon I was just mouth wide open, just glued on this guy. That is unbelievable. You guys do not appreciate how good this guy is.
Well, see, he was classically trained from a little boy. So not just the chords and all that sort of stuff, which, when you pick up a guitar and you start playing, he actually did the whole shebang. So Michael was actually, it sounds ridiculous, but he was conducting at some stupid age, like 15.
Oh, wow, yeah. So
it's a whole different ball game, it's...
And you talked about it a bit too, Simon, and we don't want to be negative because people do see music as being fun, so they relate music to being fun, but you look at Michael and Wendy, we've heard your story, but these guys have been, and it's not me because I'm a little bit different, but these guys have been playing music since they were wee tackers, and there is hour upon hour upon hour upon hour of picking up the guitar, and I just use that as the one instrument, and practicing, right? Now, I challenge anyone out there, have you done anything like that, since a little kid? So they've put the hours in. You've got a guitar at your house, you look at it, you play one chord, and then you put it down again because you can't be bothered with it. But these guys love it, and they learnt it, and they've got millions of hours of a degree there to make your event amazing. And it doesn't just happen. You don't just get up there and play. There's a lot that goes into that sort of stuff. So I think people kind of understand, but they kind of don't as well.
No, they can't. It's because it seems so natural. It seems easy to people. But I can remember I did before COVID, a lot of group sessions as far as development with people. And I remember once, I said, look, we're going to write a song. Just this thing we did with a group on a conference, very simple. We're going to write a song each and just 3 chords and have a bit of fun with it. And I said, now there's 25 people. And I said, now somebody else must be able to play guitar here. And not one person could. And I said, you forget that sometimes there's, out of the whole lot of people, now I know more people are playing instruments, but a whole lot of people in the audience not a lot of them can play the music, so they probably don't understand the intricacy. And like, you know, me, I'm all right, but you talk about, you know, musos who've done that for their life. It's just ingrained, and they're doing music every day, and they're thinking and creating and developing and playing, and it is just fabulous, and it's something that I think you really have to have an appreciation of.
Yeah, I think, you know, Russell, the point you're making is that I guess because of technology as well, in the last, say, 10, 20 years, a lot of people have thought that they can make music because you just push that button and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. However, there's much more to it than that. And as you were saying, you've got to put the work in.
Yeah,
I reckon that, but that's a really good point. If you want to be, you know, like, it's interesting where we started from, Russell, when you talk about the time your dad had you doing lots of footy. Now, it was enjoyable, but you put a lot of time in first. Wendy, starting at 9, there's time. If you want to be successful in anything, I know there's an old measurement of 10,000 hours, and there's two sides to it. It's not actually 10,000 hours, but it's equivalent of that. You put that into anything, you probably become good at it. Now, you think about the hours you put into it over your career in music or in sport. You just do. You actually have to do all that. There's very few who make it just because of their talent. It's the hours that go into it with it.
You know, you got to do the work. I think that's the famous story that Jerry Seinfeld was asked to go back and do a talk at his university or college or whatever it was over there in the States, and he didn't want to do it, and they offered him all sorts of money, which he wasn't interested in. He finally relented, and he went to this auditorium where the whole school was there to see Jerry Seinfeld. He's going to talk to us all. And all he did is he walked out on stage. He said, "You want my lesson for life?" And we had butcher papers set up there, and he just wrote 3 words: "Do the work."
Yeah.
And then walked off. And and that's brilliant. And it's true. You know, and you ask any musician, guitarist, I saw a thing online, they were asking guitarists, how do you become a great guitarist? 3 words, and most of them just said practice, practice, practice.
Right, yeah, but do the work. Yeah, that's right. Practice.
I
tell you, it's really interesting. I like Ed. You know, you talk about different. I like Ed Sheeran. I like the story about when he did his first big single to hit in Australia, and he was on one of those X Factor, one of those shows, and they got him up. And they said, "Oh, you've been fantastic. You're an overnight success." And he said, "Well, actually, I'm not." He said, "I've been doing this for 10 years. You've just noticed me now." And he's doing 300 gigs a year. Yeah. So he was doing the work, doing the grounding, and then he got found, which is always, as you say, you got found in your football. Not everybody gets found necessarily, but did the work.
That's what NXS did. They were the hardest working band in Australia. They gigged every single night. You know, they learnt the craft. And look, that's bands, and forget about, you know, we're forgetting about singers like Wendy here. I mean, that's a natural born talent that she's had to work at as well. You know, that's a muscle that needs to be strengthened every single day.
Yeah.
And a lot of musicians, I think a lot of singers, it's nice for me to be able to stand up there and hide behind a guitar. But Wendy's got to stand up there, and Kate's got to stand up there and just exposed, sing. And every single day she's making sure that this is working and getting stronger. And I'm sure you give that advice to all your kids that you teach, Wendy, that you've got to do the work with singing as well. Melodies are in the scale. They're in the scale there somewhere. You've got to find those melodies. You've got to be able to hit those notes. And it just doesn't happen. You just don't walk onto a stage on the X Factor and you become a superstar.
No, that's great.
It's a as you said, actually, a lot of people are freaked out when you say, you know, it's a muscle.
Yeah.
Like it's some secret little, your voice box is something else, but you're right, it's a muscle, and you also need muscle memory.
Yeah.
For example, when I was doing Dusty, because the songs were sort of husky and softer, and I was so used to being in a rock band. You know, trying to get over that bloody guitarist.
No bloody guitarist.
And actually, when I was doing the theatre run of Dusty, one night after the Saturday night show, the Peter Sullivan Big Band were playing for the opening of a big musical. I think it might have been Phantom or something like that. Big after party at the Melbourne Town Hall, and they said, "Come down after Dusty and jump up and do just one song. So, you know, silly here, gets excited, has a few drinks, jumps up on the stage with the big band, and I sang River Deep, Mountain High, and I really went for it, you know.
Yeah.
And the next day we had a Sunday late afternoon show for the Dusty.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. And see, people forget it's an yeah.
I'd blown it.
Wow.
All had, you know.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you've had a couple of drinks.
Yeah, you do. Let's go.
Oh no, not me.
Look, I think I'll have to stop it there. We've been going we're trying to go about 40, 45 minutes. So I think we've reached that very, very
Talk
quickly.
all day, Simon. We can talk all day about music.
I was going to say we could go on. It's fantastic. It's really interesting. But normally I try and ask a few questions about success and the struggle, etc. You've already spoken about that. You've talked about that. What's the future hold? Do we know?
Oh God, I don't know. You know, I feel confident about, you know, the country opening up around Christmas time. I'm only confident because I'm hopeful. I feel very sorry for a lot of Victorians. 99.9% have been doing the right thing and doing as we're told, like good little boys and girls. And there has been some people that have made some bad decisions, probably at the top end, that have made us suffer. We have suffered, and we deserve to see our families. What worries me is there's a lot of people out there that are suffering silently.
Yeah.
We don't know their stories, and we never will, our fellow Australians. And I think it's probably the future needs to be a little bit about care and a little bit about looking after one another. And I think take this time right now to figure out how you're going to attack and approach your next year. Learn something from this last 10, 11 months of just absolute, it's been shit. It's been awful. And there's nothing exciting about, you know, a lot of work for a lot of people it's really going to be a bit of a struggle. So my message to people out there is, you know, because of the COVID thing, we need to love each other a little bit more. We need to be a little bit softer with each other and understanding of each other in terms of, you know, building yourself up to something new. You know, and what we've spoken about, my final messages are, you know, you do have to do the work. You have to find mentors in people, and you have to put a smile on your face and appreciate people for their talents and their abilities, and rejoice in that. That's one of my greatest talents, is that I can sit there and watch Wendy sing and just be blown away by her talent and tell her and feel great in that moment. There are a lot of people that feel the other way, you know what I mean? So, you know, try your best to be a little bit more like that, I think, in the future. This has just been so really, really horrible this last 12 months.
I also think that we've also got to realise, especially with kids, as you said, it's been wonderful to be able to, not wonderful to have them at home with you, but to have all of that love and time that they didn't normally have. And, you know, we've got to remember that kids are very resilient.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we won't forget this, but a lot of young people, we've got to encourage them to just get on with it. It may not be the same world, but it's still got to go ahead.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well,
we've got to be positive for them.
Fantastic. Wendy and Russell, what a great way to finish off this. Look, thank you very much for your time. Love your insight. Love the music talk. We could do that. And at some stage, we're going to try and get the three of us together and play. Even in the backyard, just do something. Have a bit of a get together. That's fantastic. Wendy, always love your work, and your voice has got, I keep saying, it's like a beautiful red. It's got better and better over the years. And Russell, I've always been fascinated. You know, they say to me, a footballer can play guitar. Well, a bloke like you, mate, can get up at that, who can play footy like that and then come out and have a music career too along the way after, is fantastic. So, Wendy and Russell, thank you very much.
Thanks, brother. See you, Wendy.
See ya.
Bye.
Boys.